fellow named Scott Jaynes, 52 years old, lives in Victoria, Texas. Had a heart attack, died at the hospital, leaving behind his wife and a lot of friends. 99.9% of you don't know Scott Jaynes, so why do I tell you that? Well, first, because he was a dear friend and did a lot to help me. Did a lot of things behind the scenes that he wouldn't want me telling, but I consider the Redneck Country Club sort of my charity, my cause. It's where we do a lot of things for a lot of people that we don't always tell about, but I know they appreciate it. Veterans and charities, hopefully help some marriages along the way. We do a lot for charitable causes and causes that might be called causes, but they're veterans and they deserve it. I don't feel like it's a charity per se. But anyway, he did financially more for the Redneck Country Club than anybody and never wanted me to tell anyone that. I think that says a lot about the man. But the reason I tell you that is because there's something more important, and that is this. Scott Jaynes lost his mother about, 2-3 weeks ago. And his wife, Carol, I was checking in to see how he was doing because I tend to empathize with things that I might possibly be in a position of, and I know at some point I'll lose my father and I'll lose my mother. I can only imagine how that must hurt. And so I texted her, how's he doing? And she said, I've never in our years of marriage seen him cry. And he broke down and cried, just bawled. It just poured out of him. And she said that, and it just never seen him like that. And so I knew he was hurting, and I knew how hard this had hit him. And so we stayed in touch, and we talked through it. And I said, you know what? My answer to everything is I'm busy. Well, you can't be too busy to do things that you're proud to do, that are important to you. So I said, Scott, pick a day. I'll cancel everything I have. And when I get off from the early show, we'll go to lunch and spend the afternoon together. Just want to talk about your mom and my mom and your business and my business, what matters, marriage, all those things. Just two guys spending time together. So he picked a few days later, and we went to lunch. This was about 3 weeks ago, I think. And we went to lunch. And by the way, for those of you just tuning in, today's show is live. It is June 11th. I flew back from Memphis rather than going to New York. I flew back from Memphis to Houston so that I could be at his funeral tomorrow. So I know we've been playing replays because I was at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, but today's show is live. So we went to lunch and we talked about things that were very important to us. We talked a lot about his mother. We talked about his marriage. We talked about his business. I learned more about how he started his business, and it was an amazing thing. And again, no education, no formal education, and Scott's more successful than 99% of Americans, was more successful than 99% of Americans with no college through hard work in the oil field. And from that conversation, I learned a lot about who he was and what really made him tick. I'd known him for quite a while, but to really dig deep and ask some tough questions was very healthy. And we left that conversation, and that evening he sent me a nice text, and he said, look, I know you don't have 4 hours to devote to a lot of people, but it was very kind of you to do that, and I'm glad you did, and I really enjoyed our time together. And then at about that time, we had been thinking about honoring him and his wife for all they've done for the Redneck Country Club at the Redneck Country Club. So last weekend, we named the bar on the side of the stage in the VI, or the Very Important Redneck area. We named it the Scott and Carol Jaynes Bar. a matter of days. You could even count it in hours later. He wasn't here anymore. I'll never get the chance to thank him again. I'll never get the chance to tell him what he's meant to something that was near and dear to my heart. I'll never get the chance to thank him for all he's done for so many charities and causes that we've taken up where he's written checks. And I'll never get to thank him for the kindness he has shown me in so many ways. Never again. And I think to myself, if I hadn't taken that day, it's very hard for me to take 4 hours and do something like that. But I did, and I don't know why I did. I'd like to think I had a strange premonition, but there have been opportunities I've missed. And I think to myself, how important it is to stop and do the things that matter most right now. How important it is to stop and think about the fact that we don't know who will be here tomorrow, and that you should live your life on that premise. How important. I just found the text. It was May 5th. Took a picture of him sitting across the table. We went to a wonderful Cuban restaurant, my favorite Cuban restaurant in the whole world. It's called Cafe Piquet, Piquet. It's on Bissonnette in Houston, and I eat there often. It's owned by a woman, similar story. Her husband, Guido Piquet, they're Cubans, had gone home to visit his mama in Florida, and he was driving back to Houston, middle of the night. He's probably pretty tired, but he's thinking, I want to make it on through to Houston. I want to sleep in my own bed. Fell asleep while he was driving, drove off to the side, killed him, leaving his widow devastated. Young, lovely woman who loved her husband. They were talking about retiring. They were thinking of life after the hard work and grind of a restaurant. And he was gone, just gone like that. And I like to go to the restaurant because it has wonderful Cuban food, but I also like to go to the restaurant because it's a reminder to me Guido was gone, just like that. And so could anyone else be. So could anyone else. You don't know when you leave for work in the morning that you're coming home, or that your wife is there when you get there, or that your kids are there when you get there. You don't know that your parents will wake up and shuffle across the living room and watch The Wheel of Fortune or Price is Right one more day. So anyway, I looked at this picture today, May 5th. I took a picture of him sitting across the table from me, and we're eating chuletas, these big, delicious pork chops that Cafe Piquet makes. And I don't know what the sauce is they put on them, but it's just incredible. And then congri, which is this black beans and rice, and the black bean juice makes the rice black. And I look at that picture, and I think why I went to that restaurant in the first place, and now he's yet another example in that long train of proof that what matters most is our relationships, not the things you can buy, not the things you can trade or sell or hoard. What matters most is our relationships. We should tell the people in our relationships that they matter.
He expresses, the point of view that I hold.
The Michael Berry Show.